Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where people confuse regular Joe Schmoes as employees. And in today's episode, OP refuses assistance to a rude Karen, and she calls her big bad son to come to the rescue. Guys, it doesn't end well for him. I hope you enjoyed today's super satisfying lineup of stories. Hit that subscribe button for future tales, and as always, your story submissions can be sent right here. So over the last few days, my mother and I have been moving my grandma into a nursing home. It's been incredibly difficult, not only for my grandma, as this is a massive adjustment for her, but because at the best of times, she and my mother have a strained relationship. This led to me doing the majority of the heavy lifting, taking boxes from the moving truck up the elevator, down the hall to my grandma's apartment, and then taking the flattened boxes and garbage back down, just to get away from them for a few minutes at a time. So on this particular trip, I was taking some old dishes that simply couldn't fit into the limited kitchenette, mostly metal cups and wooden bowls with a few broken dishes chucked in the bottom, all marked for garbage. I'm walking down the hall with a huge box in my arms, and off to my left, I can hear a phone ringing. As I get closer, I can see a woman, definitely not old enough to be a resident, peering around the corner to see where the sound is coming from. As I approach, she asks me rather snottily, "Hey, are you gonna answer that or what?" At that, I raised one eyebrow and gave her a rather confused look. I'm clearly dressed nothing like the staff, who all wear scrubs. But friends, after 3 days of packing and unpacking in the sweltering apartment, I didn't have that much patience left. The woman was frowning at me so hard that I had to say something. So as I walked by, I said, "Sure, lady, I'll get right on that," and carried on to the elevator. At that, Karen whirls on me with a "how dare you" expression, and she grabs my arm while breathing in, probably to tell me at maximum volume what a bad employee I am. I've already had enough of this woman's entitlement, so I drop the box. The broken dishes inside shatter again, and Karen is startled so badly that she shuts the heck up and takes a step back. I then look at her evenly. It cannot be lost on her that I'm angry and clearly on the edge of something. I didn't yell, but in a low clipped voice, I say, while never breaking eye contact, "I don't effing work here. I'm not gonna answer the phone because the phone isn't my problem. Now leave me the F alone." Her head was by this point as far back on her neck as possible, her lips were sucked in, and I maintain eye contact as the elevator dings and the doors roll open. I half push, half kick the box into the elevator and let the doors close behind me, and she didn't say a damn word. Well guys, that's one way to deal with a rude person. And seriously, if OP's face was as menacing as they described, I'm pretty sure the Karen's gonna hesitate to grab anyone for quite a few years. And listen, nobody should ever grab anybody. Like, it's crazy how some people grab random strangers. You never know how the person's gonna react, and Karen should consider herself lucky because I've read stories where Karen's noses are broken, hands are broken, they're tossed off a flight of stairs. So yeah, okay, next story. A bit of backstory. So the university I work in has a weird layout. Since they have a hotel hospitality faculty, they merged the building together with a local hotel. The university is from the 3rd to 5th floor, while the hotel is located under it. The university requires me to wear a long sleeve shirt, and it kind of does look like the hotel employee's outfit, minus the vest with their logo on it. So 3 days ago, I went down to the hotel lobby and booked an online taxi. I then waited by the glass door to make sure that I didn't miss the car when it arrived. Now here's where the annoying group of tourists come into the story, along with their scumbag tour guide. Let's call her Karen because why not? The van arrived and dropped off all of them right in the entrance. The woman gathered them together and explained some stuff in Chinese. Being Chinese myself, I do understand a bit of what she said, but didn't pay attention to it. She then turns and stands in front of the glass door, expecting me to open it for her. Now I didn't really pay attention to her, and I looked down on my phone to check where my driver's at. She then impatiently opened the door herself and let out a loud, "Huh." All of a sudden, she slaps the phone out of my hand. Now I was surprised and confused. The woman then starts screaming at me out of nowhere, and she said, "Do your work properly, you dumb boy." I say to her, "What the F, lady, I don't work here." I then pick up my phone and say, "I can direct you to an employee if you want to." The Karen doesn't believe me. She says, "Keep telling lies and I'll tell your boss. Do you want to get fired?" She then proceeded to shove her coat into my arm and signaled the tourist to enter the lobby. I was mad, real mad, so I did the only thing that crossed my mind. I tapped her on the shoulder, and when she turned to look at me, I threw her coat down to the ground and wiped my feet on it. I also spat on it once. I was that angry. Seeing that, the woman shrieked and shouted for the security guard. When the guard came, she screamed at him that I ruined her coat and that she wanted the manager called. The dude looked at me and laughed. He and I know each other since I often chat with him while waiting for my online taxi. He tells her, "I can't do that, ma'am. He doesn't work here." The lady screams, "What? He told me he works here." To which I say, "I literally told you I don't work here. Now apologize." So by this time, my online taxis arrived and the driver was calling me. So I walked away towards the car, opened the door, turned my back to look at Karen, and shouted in Chinese, "Use your brain next time, idiot." I then proceed to board my taxi and smile as I see her jaw drop and the tourist uncomfortably looking between her and the car. The moral of the story is don't be an a-hole and don't expect people to meekly listen to you. Ain't that the truth, guys? And it's such a shame that OP didn't hold onto the coat and leave in the taxi with it, right? Because clearly she wanted him to have it. Jokes aside, at that point, I might have demanded her manager since she was a tour guide. Okay, so boring backstory time. I work a 24/7 roster in healthcare in a medium-sized hospital. So this particular year, the flu shot that everybody got missed the big one. As a result, everybody had the flu. Staff was dropping like flies from either having the flu or looking after kids with the flu. Our department was running lean on staff already, so this wiped us out. As a dude with no kids who wasn't dying a slow sniffle death, I was suddenly in high demand to cover all the shifts. This resulted in a 21-day period of covering all the overnights, 10-hour shifts, with the minimum required rest periods. Now it sounds bad, but honestly, it wasn't too terrible. Lots of flu patients in bed don't really require my department too frequently, so I made lots of overtime without being worked to death. But that last week, the flu finally caught up with me. The symptoms were pretty mild though, up until my last overnight. Suddenly, all my symptoms were dialed right up. Mild sniffles, sore throat, hacking cough, fever, blocked sinuses, and vomiting for the last 4 hours of my last shift. Oh joy. One of the doctors was nice enough to check me out. Diagnosed the flu with an added bonus of bacterial sinus and chest infection. He wrote me a very generous sick note and sent me on my way with a prescription for antibiotics for the chest infection. So off I go to the nearest pharmacy before running home and hiding from the world for 72 hours. So there I am, waiting for my meds to be filled, aimlessly walking the aisles with my trusty basket that's slowly filling up with purchases that one makes when sleep deprived and ill. I had lozenges, nasal spray, those diabetic jelly beans, and of course a bulk mix pack of Band-Aids, because the 500 I have under my sink might not be enough. But then I see them. My girlfriend's brand of pads are on sale. The girlfriend I haven't seen for probably 3 weeks. I'm thinking boyfriend points could be earned here. I mean, what girl doesn't see the romance in a 12-pack of pads? So here I am, scooping those suckers off the shelf like a madman, a row at a time. But in my exuberance, I accidentally knocked some of the wrong pads onto the ground. Anyhow, I bend over and start returning the dropped pads to the display when I feel a sharp jab to my shoulder. Now with that, I am a bit startled. With my face so gummed up and my hearing shot, I didn't hear anyone approaching. I come out of my crouch, pad still in hand, and turn to face an old lady in her early 70s. The conversation's not verbatim as this was years ago. The old lady says to me, "Excuse me, but I need help finding this product." I then shuffle to the side a bit so I'm not taking up the whole aisle, and I say, "Sorry, I haven't seen any of that product. I can't remember." The lady then gets a bit huffy and says, "Well, go look for it. Isn't that your job?" Now me, still not getting it, say, no, I mean, I'm just here putting these pads away. You could try finding someone that works here. I'm just shopping. At this point, the old lady looks at the pads in my hands, my hospital lanyard hanging around my neck, and my Noah's Ark-like basket of goodies. Then she abruptly turns around and walks away. At that, I sort of shrug and go back to putting back the wrong pads. Thanks to a coughing fit, I'm still doing just that when the old lady returns with a man in his 40s, and he's a frickin' Chad. The man comes at me aggressively and says, "Hey, are you the guy who refused to help my mother?" I finally finish putting those frickin' pads away and turn to face him, the old lady standing behind him with a decidedly smug look on her face. I say, "Look, guys, I honestly don't know where this product is. I'm just here for my meds and doing a little shopping." At that, the man shakes his head a bit and gets right into my personal space. The old lady then shuffles forward with him, so we're all too close for comfort in this cramped aisle. The man then says, "Look, son, it's one thing to be lazy, but don't be stupid. If you're gonna slack off, at least take off the damn evidence." And with that, he reached out and grabbed my lanyard with a hard yank. Now, my fellow hospital peeps will be aware that we wear breakaway lanyards, so patients can't strangle us. So I think maybe he was trying to give me a jolt, but he ended up with my hospital ID. Now at this point, I'm getting angry. Certain swear words are about to get spoken, but abruptly, my body lets me know that I'm gonna sneeze. So like the good hospital pleb I am, my arm comes up so I can sneeze into my elbow. The man is standing there, still confused by the breakaway lanyard, and he sees me raising my arm, and he thinks I'm throwing the world's worst punch. The man immediately grabs my arm with his left hand, and we share a brief look of confusion before my eyes start to cross. The man's getting even more aggressive now, thinking I'm about to hit him. Now here's where my bag of Fs, which is already depleted by weeks without a break, runs completely dry. I don't turn away like a normal person would. Nope, I decide to take aim. The sneeze is a big one, and I don't care. I spray the man with snot and saliva. The first sign of sinus infection green paints his face, and the second gets all over his coat. The man then lets go of my arm, and I kind of swivel so the third blast catches the old lady. I come out of the head rush you get after sneezing to see the man dry retching, as I'm pretty sure some got onto his lips and might have even gotten into his mouth. The old lady just sort of staring at me with her mouth open doing that goldfish thing. At this point, my ID's on the floor. The man must have dropped it. So I grab it, grab my basket, and push past him and the old lady while they're still reeling from my biological attack. I then scream, "I already told you, I don't work here, I have the flu. What kind of idiots harass someone with the flu?" And with that, I bravely hid right next to the pharmacy desk until my prescription was filled. I really hope the old lady and her son enjoyed that flu season just as much as I did. And hey, at least I didn't puke on them, right? Guys, you know what they say, right? Revenge is a dish best served in the form of green snot and saliva. I'm not gonna lie though, that was kind of gross, yet kind of satisfying at the same time to hear that the man got what he deserved. So I'm a cook by trade, and I've been working in the industry for nearly 10 years now. This happened roughly a year and a half ago, and I would often make grocery runs to the local Whole Foods, which is along my way home. I'm by default a helpful sort of guy. I'm often in my black chef's coat with the restaurant logo on the shoulders and the name tag on my right breast, and carrying my knife roll bag on my shoulder. So if people are looking lost at the aisles and see me, they often ask me for advice. This is usually people asking about gluten-free products, antioxidant crap, and whatnot, and I'm more than happy to help. I will note that the cooking staff here work in white coats rather than black. So one day, after a hard day of work, I'm at the Whole Foods picking out flour for pancakes, as the next day would be my day off. An older gentleman asked me of my opinion on spices, and I advise him to actually go to a wholesale store to get them cheaper and in bulk, rather than buy the tiny bottles of overpriced spices. We get into a discussion about baking and which flours were best for certain items for several minutes, and he left a happy man. It was at this point, insert the moment we've all been waiting for. The Karen. She was a fairly nice-looking woman, terrible personality, and her son, who's a 6-year-old kid who'd rather not be here, and he was spoiled beyond reason. The kid comes up to me and says, "Hey, mister, are you a chef?" I laugh and say, "Sure am." He then asks me what I'm gonna make, and I tell him big fluffy pancakes tomorrow. He then asked me, "What's that on your back?" To which I say, "Oh, that's my knife set. I carry it with me because they're very expensive and I don't want anyone to take them when I'm not working." Cue his mother, who had apparently been looking for him. She sees me and her eyes instantly light up and she says, "Oh, excuse me, can you help me?" I tell her, "Sure can, what do you need?" She then says, "I'm looking for activated almonds. Do you know where I could get them?" At that, I laugh a little and say, "Yeah, but you should know that activated almonds are literally just almonds sitting overnight in water. It doesn't have any special properties." To which the woman says, "Really? That sounds like a scam." I tell her, "Oh, it really is." She then asks me, "Do you know where I can find the pickles?" I tell her they should be by the can section and point. She then asks me to show her, and I say, "Okay, sure." So I grab my basket with flour, eggs, and whatnot, and this honestly should have clued the mom in. She then barrages me with questions about various pickles on the shelves as I help her get the ones she needed for her sandwiches. So while I'm explaining the different kind of pickles there were and how to pickle at home, I make the mistake of setting my knife bag against the shelf because my shoulder was aching. The kid at this point was bored as hell and not interested in the advice being vomited by yours truly, and he decides to grab my bag in an attempt to inspect it. To which I say, "Oh, sorry kid, you can't touch that." I then grab a hold of my bag. The kid looks shocked I took it away from him and he's making an angry face. The mom then says, "Oh, don't worry about him, my son's a careful boy, and he won't break anything." I say to her, "That may well be true, ma'am. Kind of hard to break knives. I'm more concerned about your son hurting himself on my knives." She says, "Don't be silly. He's really careful. You should be glad my son's taking interest in your profession." I say to her, "That's great and all, but you should teach your child not to grab strangers' things, especially if it's full of potentially dangerous tools." So hearing that, the woman's demeanor changes and she says, "Are you telling me how I should raise my child? I'd like an apology." I tell her I'm not going to apologize for stopping your kid from grabbing my bag of knives. These are my personal tools, and taking them out in a public setting would be dangerous and unprofessional. The woman then says, "I'll tell you what, I'll buy it off you. Here, this should be enough." She then pulls out $50, and I say, "Lady, the chef knife alone cost me well over $250. Never mind the bag itself is at least $50. Of course, she tells me I'm lying, that there's no way all these knives cost that much. At this point, I'm done with this woman, so I say, "Whatever, I'm not gonna argue with you. Good day, ma'am." But she isn't letting it go, literally. She grabs a hold of my knife bag and demands that I sell it to her. She tells me to hand them over or she's gonna call the manager. Now at this time, I believe she was talking about my actual manager at the establishment I worked at. So I said, "Go ahead. Now let go." The woman lets go and storms off, and I thought that was the end of it. But about 5 minutes later, I'm accosted again by the woman, who's gotten herself a resigned-looking manager. Now, being sort of a regular at the Whole Foods, people know me by appearance, and the manager sees me and looks surprised. The woman then says, "There he is. I want that man fired and arrested." I say, "Arrested for what?" She then tells the manager some BS story about me selling the knives to her before running off with a strangely vague amount of money. I say to her again, "Lady, I'm not gonna sell these knives to you. I don't even work here." The Karen then looks at the manager and he says, "He's right, he doesn't work here, he works at the restaurant." He then looks at the woman with a raised eyebrow and says, "Ma'am, are we gonna have a problem here?" The woman then makes a noise reminiscent of a strangled cat and she apologetically shuffles away. And that's that. I paid for my stuff, went home, and made the fluffiest, softest pancakes known to man the very next day. I then got a text from my actual manager who was asking about a woman complaining about me specifically and writing bad reviews. Needless to say, that was the last time we've ever heard of the woman. For a few weeks anyway, but that's a different story entirely. Yeah, guys, I can't help but wonder what the heck she was gonna do with the knives if, for some insane reason, OP did sell them to her. Like, was she gonna let the young child play with those very sharp knives? Okay, so about 25 years ago, I had just gotten off my shift with a law enforcement agency. I had not bothered to fully change out of my uniform, and I still had my tan tactical pants on, and a brand new red Henley type shirt that I just pulled over my department polo shirt. At that time, I decided to stop at the local Target to do some last-minute Christmas shopping. Now, because I'm 6'6", I typically get people asking me to get something off higher shelves. At one point, I had a Karen following me, asking me to get things off higher shelves for her. And then she started asking me about pricing, and I had no idea, so I asked her to please leave me alone so I could do my shopping in peace. So little did I know that she would go and find a manager and complain about the really tall employee ignoring her needs. Well, I'm peacefully shopping and I was approached by Karen and the manager, with the manager telling me that I was supposed to be providing customer service, especially during the holiday season, and that rudeness would not be tolerated in her store. The manager then got really angry and said I should clock out and not come back to work. I had nothing, simply nothing to say because I've never been fired from Target before. So I took the last of my shopping to the checkout lane where the manager and the Karen followed me. The manager then told me not to even think about using my employee discount. It was at that time while I was checking out that I opened my wallet to show them my badge and credentials in it. I then say to the manager something along the lines of, "Do you even know who works for you?" So at that, the Karen harumphed off, and the manager's soul seemed to depart her body. The best part was, the cashier and the security guy was cracking up, and that was the one and only time I was fired from Target. Guys, you know who needs to be fired from Target? That manager, for giving a random customer crap and not even knowing that they're an employee or not. Like guys, is that insane or what? That's like the third story I've read where a manager fires an employee without even knowing if they're an employee. That's it. I'm gonna find a Target, put on a red shirt, and pretend to be a bad employee. Guys, I'll report back to you and let you know if I'm fired. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's super satisfying stories. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm gonna link it right here. It's an r/entitled people episode, where a Karen neighbor thinks she owns the whole neighborhood and tries to jail OP's family for taking out garbage. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.